Smiles Television Talk Show. Will you come back? Welcome to Smiles Television Talk Show. I'm Stephanie Miles, and we are on location at the History Museum in St. Louis, Missouri. Today we have a great broadcast. We'll be talking with Mrs. Lynn Jackson, who is the great-great-granddaughter of Dred Scott. You don't want to miss this broadcast. Remember, Jesus Christ was born of a virgin. He was crucified and buried, and he rose on the third day. Confess with your mouth that he is Lord. Believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, and thou shalt be saved. Stay tuned for more Smiles. Welcome back to Smiles. We're at the History Museum in St. Louis, Missouri on Lindo. I'm standing here with our guest, Mrs. Lynn Jackson, the great-great-granddaughter of Dred Scott. And Lynn, I want to thank you because you've been to Smiles before, and thank you for coming back again.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's always fun to be with you.
And you know what? We're in a beautiful location here. I see the portrait of your great-great-grandfather above us. Tell our audience, because you've shared before and you go around and you tell the story so well, but share with our audience the impact that Dred Scott and his case had on our nation.
Well, Stephanie, thank you. Yeah, I do get the privilege of doing that all the time. But, in a nutshell, I'm going to just tell you that this was an enslaved person who met and married another enslaved person, Dred and Harriet Scott. They met and married at Fort Snelling. They were in free territory. And at that point, they came back to St. Louis with their owner, who subsequently died fairly soon thereafter. And the widow would not allow them their freedom due to the fact that they had been in free territory. All of this led to Dred and Harriet filing for their freedom at the St. Louis's old courthouse, which is downtown St. Louis. And after 11 years of court proceedings going through the Missouri Supreme Court, as well as just many years passing, they were told by the U.S. Supreme Court that they were not allowed to be free because they were not citizens. And that was an angle on which the case rested, whether or not African Americans were citizens. The court decided they were not. And so Dred and Harriet lost their 11-year battle for freedom. However, the good news is they were freed actually 2 months later, and in part due to the actions of their attorneys and the children of their previous owners.
I remember reading that the Dred Scott case was actually the catalyst that led to the Civil War.
It was certainly one of them, and really a major catalyst, because from that, the North and South, which were already divided, were further divided. And Abraham Lincoln, who had been a lawyer and then dabbled in politics, wasn't very successful, had considered getting out. But when he heard the Dred Scott decision, he said, no, this is not too right. There were other aspects of the case that would have allowed slavery to be from coast to coast and forevermore. And so he fought that and ultimately became the president who governed the Civil War and helped to free the slaves.
Okay, Lynn, as Dred Scott's great-great-granddaughter, you have founded what's called the Dred Scott Heritage Foundation. Right. Tell us a little bit about that and the mission of the foundation.
Well, the mission of the foundation is very simple. It's 3 things: commemoration, education, and reconciliation. 3 things we need a lot of right now. We need to always remember, and we remembered the 150th anniversary in 2007. So next year will be the 160th anniversary of the Dred Scott decision. We're educating people all the time, and yes, the speaking is a part of it, but the writing, the websites, the articles, so many things. And a big part of that is just getting out our history, and not just Dred Scott's, but all the histories that are surrounding those kinds of things. And then reconciliation, which is huge. And we had no idea what that meant when I got a download from upstairs to go that route. Mm-hmm. And yet here we are, 10 years later, and finding out that we need this more than ever.
And speaking of reconciliation, Lynn has a nice conference coming up of historic nature. Tell our audience about your conference, the Reconciliation Conference, which is going to be held on December 3rd, 2016.
Right. Well, after 10 years, we've had so many amazing things happen and met so many incredible people that we're now able to actually present what we call the Dred Scott Sons and Daughters of Reconciliation. And that will be the basis of our Dred Scott Reconciliation Conference. It will be held December 3rd. That's a Saturday, 8:30 registration, 9 to 4. And there will be a fee for the conference, which is $75. It includes lunch. You will get to meet and dialogue with descendants of Dred Scott, Thomas Jefferson, the Blow family who owned Dred Scott, Jefferson Davis, who was the Confederate president that seceded from the nation, as well as the Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, who read the Dred Scott decision. Descendants of all of those history makers will be at our conference. And these are people that we have talked to and worked with and are doing some incredible work with even as we speak right now through our foundation, for the fact that we can work together in the 21st century differently than our ancestors, and to, of course, promote reconciliation.
And, you know, during the times today and this year, we are faced with so many issues, and the motto and the theme of reconciliation is just so timely. If you will, tell our audience about the area in which we're standing right now.
Well, this is a favorite place in St. Louis. This is the St. Louis History Museum. And at the St. Louis History Museum, where we're standing, is an original oil painting of Dred Scott. This was commissioned in 1882 by a group of quote-unquote Negro citizens. And in this particular place where we're standing, Dred Scott was eulogized at the presentation of this picture in the History Museum by James Milton Turner. And people in St. Louis might recognize that name. He was also a very famous African American, in fact, even an ambassador to the United States. But this picture is from 1882. It's the original. It was taken from a daguerre-type photograph. And this is one of the consummate iconic images of Dred Scott that we have today. The other one was on the cover of the Frank Leslie Illustrated.
Well, I want to thank you, Lynn, for joining us. And if you will, tell our audience once again about your conference. But you know what? This is of such a historical nature that this is a video or a broadcast that we're probably going to show more than once. So if you happen to tune into this and December 3rd has passed, don't worry, because it's rich in history. So Lynn, tell our audience again about the upcoming Reconciliation Conference, and give your website and contact information in case individuals are interested in making contact with you.
Okay, again, the conference is the Dred Scott Reconciliation Conference, to be held Saturday, December 3rd. It'll be at the Hilton Frontenac at Clayton and Lindbergh in St. Louis County. We will have descendants of Thomas Jefferson, Jefferson Davis, Dred Scott, Peter Blow, and Roger B. Taney, the Justice. So we are encouraging everyone to come out, meet these individuals. They're incredible people who in their own right are doing something to help heal our nation. We're working together. We would love to have you come and join us. You can register for this conference at our website, which is Dred, D-R-E-D, DredScottFoundation.org. If you don't do PayPal online, then you can mail a registration for the conference of $75 to P.O. Box 2009. That's in Florissant, Missouri, zip 63032. We are looking forward to having you there. You do not want to miss this historic event.
Thank you, Lynn, and I just love you to pieces. I'm just so grateful that you allowed us to talk with you. And I want to thank you, but don't go away, because we have some more exciting things coming up. But take a listen to this song, which was produced by Jeff Lorber and Kevin Ellis. Jeff Lorber is a famous producer. He's done work for people like Janet Jackson, Kenny G, and others. And Kevin Ellis happens to be from East St. Louis, Illinois, and he started a band called Dreaming in Color. So take a listen. It's going to end up being our theme song. Stay tuned for more smiles.
the most important, significant accomplishments of our Dred Scott Heritage Foundation was the fact that we absolutely erected the first ever statue of Dred Scott, and it includes his wife, Harriet. It is standing at the old courthouse in front of the courthouse where they filed for their freedom in St. Louis. They're facing the arch, and it was a $250,000 statue, beautifully crafted by master sculptor Harry Weber. And we're delighted to be able to say that we did this, and it stands there now for all the people to see, all of our visitors, and all of posterity.
Welcome back to Smiles. And we've started a new section on our broadcast called Healthy Smiles. Watch for a few moments and take a look into some of the wonderful services provided by Touchette Regional Hospital.
This is Nicole Pleggy, Communications Specialist for Touchette Regional Hospital in Centerville, Illinois. Today, Smiles TV will highlight the physical therapy services at the hospital. Our dedicated physical therapists work one-on-one with you to help you overcome limitations and achieve full recovery potential. Thank you, Smiles TV, for giving us the opportunity to share our services with your audience.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Smiles TV, Healthy Smiles. We're at Touchette Regional Hospital, and I have the opportunity to talk with Michael Riley, who's the Director of Rehabilitation and Physical Therapy. And I hope I got that right, Mr. Riley.
Perfect.
Okay, very good. If you will, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do here.
Yeah, so I'm a physical therapist by trade. I'm actually a doctor of physical therapy. And we have worked for Touchette for the past 10 years providing physical therapy and some occupational therapy and some speech therapy. And we mainly focus our areas on the outpatient physical therapy, and we do cover the inpatient physical therapy.
You know, I told you while we were waiting on the cameras to set up that I'm considering having a knee replacement. Tell us a little bit about something like that, hip replacements, knee replacements, and how you help that patient recover.
Well, number one, we have excellent surgeons here at Touchette Hospital, and we work very closely with them before and after surgery to make sure that the patient is taken care of. You know, having a surgery is never a fun option, but when you come to therapy at Touchette, we're going to have a set of individuals who have years of experience working with patients who've gone through exactly what you may go through.
What I may go through.
Yes.
And I don't know if you stated this, where are you from originally?
So I grew up in Belleville.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've worked in Sauget at Archview Medical Center for 10 years.
You know, it's interesting because we're finding out the people with whom we're speaking are from the area.
Well, I would hope so.
What benefits do you think that has?
There's nothing like knowing your clients, right? Like knowing your patients. And we're very lucky in physical therapy because generally speaking, you don't come to physical therapy for just one appointment. So we get a chance to really develop a really good friendship and relationship with the people that walk through our doors.
Well, if individuals are interested in making contact with you, how can they do that? And if you will, you can look right there into the camera because that's your audience and tell them how to make contact with you.
Sure. So if anyone is interested in physical therapy services, in the state of Illinois, we have to have an order for physical therapy. So talk to your doctor first. But once that's taken care of, you can call 618-332-5450 and just ask to talk to Jenny.
Did we capture the meat of what you wanted to share? And if not, is there anything else that you would like to tell your audience?
I think one of the questions I get asked a lot is what is physical therapy?
Okay.
And so generally speaking, physical therapy is not for people that have just had surgery. Physical therapy is a profession that is, we're basically movement experts. And so anytime you have an ailment, an ache or a pain that prohibits you from moving in the correct way, where it affects your function, where it affects the things that you really want to do with your life, a physical therapist is a great first line of defense to help you achieve your goals from a health perspective.
I'm so glad you did that because I guess I am taking for granted that we all know what physical therapy is, and that's a very good point.
Yeah, sometimes people have a fear of physical therapy, you know, and so what we focus on at Touchette is empathy and care. In fact, we're one of the only physical therapy departments in the country that measures the amount of empathy that our patients feel that we have. And so we really try to focus on getting to understand our patients and meeting them where they're at so that we can achieve the goals that they want to set.
And before we close, I must ask this, how do you measure that?
We use a tool called the Care Measure,
Okay.
which is 10 questions, and the patient fills it out on a Kindle right after their initial evaluation. And so it helps us identify areas where we might be, maybe we could get a little better at listening, or maybe we could get a little better at looking at the person as a whole. But generally speaking, we've got very high marks,
Okay.
and it's just a great tool for us to monitor the quality of our care.
I understand. So once again, after individuals have gone through their doctors and they're interested in physical therapy, how can they make contact with you at Touchette Regional Hospital?
618-332-5450 and ask for Jenny.
Thank you, sir. And I ask everybody, or at least I try to, if you get the opportunity, would you come back to Smiles?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I want to thank you for tuning in to Smiles Television Talk Show. Tune in every Monday. I told you we had a great broadcast. Lynn Jackson, the great-great-granddaughter of Dred Scott, and the Healthy Smiles section, sponsored by Southern Illinois Healthcare Foundation. Tune in to Smiles every Monday. Catch us on YouTube or Facebook. And keep smiling. You look better when you smile. And remember, only what you do for Christ will last.